I'm not going to damn her for being cautious, right?
Right.
I'm not. That's up to her. We'll do what we can to make her feel best and roll with it.
Oh, there's a host.
The host with the most.
Yeah, sorry, been busy here, running around trying to do stuff. So.
Well, that's okay. Appreciate you opening it up. Beetle and I have been chatting a little bit.
Yeah, we can't get anybody else to say anything.
They're all just listening in. But yeah, we've been just chatting a bit. How are you, Jamie?
Oh, all right. So.
It's Monday.
Yeah, it's Monday. That aunt of mine that I was telling you about there passed away late Saturday, so I'm trying to see what's going on with that as far as any arrangements or anything. So.
Oh, my condolences. Speaking of which.
How's Rosalie doing?
Well, I just ignored a call, and I need to make sure that she was at OSU as of yesterday. She's doing okay, but I'm going to mute for a second, make sure that wasn't like an official call.
Okay, understood.
I'll be right back. I'm glad you asked that because
So how's Rick doing? Oh, hi, Devin.
Good morning, Jamie.
Oh, she finally replied, huh?
Yeah, I turned it on. I had to walk away for a second. I just sat back down.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't nothing official. So, yeah, hi, Devin. How are you?
Oh, not bad.
Good. I was teasing Beetle. Beetle and I have been chitty-chatting, and he's like, well, there's more people in here now listening to us. I said, oh, yeah, Devin's taking notes. And I waited. I'm like, oh, she must not have heard my joke.
No, I walked out. I turned it on and walked out of the room for a few minutes. It's the other room.
Well, it's good to hear you.
I doubt if you guys were discussing anything top secret anyhow. So.
No, we were just talking business. I wasn't teasing. I'm too tired to tease on Beetle today. But we're just talking business, start dates and the challenge of finals right now and some other things.
That's one of the big things. We're trying to do these replays here so we can start trying to get things situated here to get people back in here. So.
Right. I had this is my only day with both my director and then our clerk. They were in the office at the same time.
Yeah.
I spent my morning that's the closest we can come to having a real conversation, me on speakerphone with them two in the room. And
you mean you don't Zoom them?
They're not Zoomers. So we went ahead and kind of got everything straightened out. You know how I love Monday morning meetings.
Oh, yeah.
But hey, you got to roll with it. So we had some business to take care of. And now I'm just happy to have a little break here talking to you guys for a few minutes.
Yeah, it kind of helps lighten the mood a little bit on everything. So
yeah, it does. But yeah, you asked about the ex there. Yeah, she's at OSU. Not real sure about the last we spoke. They were talking home health. I'm like, you need to make sure they understand. You don't have a spouse or a mother or somebody. That's why you're there.
Yeah.
You couldn't live on your own. And but all that being said, we all know how it is. The system might simply say you're going home.
Right.
And so that's kind of where we're at right now. But it's better than it was. I took her out Friday after work, and they took her up to OSU. At least now, if she comes back, it won't be quite a shock. As a shock, and we're more prepared.
Right.
And we're not doing battle. because, you know, before I just couldn't imagine her coming home, and she took that as me like being very against it, which I was, but I wasn't against her, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, it'll all be better.
It's a repeat. I'm just going to start here in just a few minutes. So, sorry, Kevin was asking me a question.
Oh, one time I said hi.
Ryan said hi, Kevin. Hi to Ryan, he said.
I can feel the love.
And then I'm getting into the ASHRAE presentation itself, talking about the standard itself there and how to do it and everything. So we're going to be a little bit of pause in here as I pull up some different PowerPoints. I even got a little video of me using the exhaust fan flow meter and stuff. So hopefully when everybody got logged in there and stuff, they entered their BPI number if you had one. So I can get you a CEU here for this presentation and stuff. We'll see how this works out and everything. If it goes smoothly enough there, that's something we'll try to do more of here in the coming presentations. So if everybody would just please make sure they've got themselves muted and everything there and stuff. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. So again here, this first PowerPoint here is on pollutants and health hazards possibly encountered during weatherization. What a pollutant is, it's a substance or energy introduced into an environment that has an undesired effect or an adverse effects that's useful of a usefulness of a resource, okay? That can take up a lot of different things there. You know, well, I guess one of the things there we might actually kind of consider a pollutant right now is this COVID-19 that's going around. That's having undesired effects on people there and even their usefulness and everything else. So, in homes, these pollutants are also known as biological pollutants, which are or were living organisms. They promote poor indoor air quality, IAQ, and may be a major cause of days lost from work or school, and of doctor and hospital visits. Especially if somebody's got some type of respiratory issues and stuff like asthma or something like that there. These pollutants can really trigger up, especially in kids, asthma attacks and everything there and stuff. And, you know, they have a severe enough or asthma attack there and everything there, they could have to go to the emergency room and stuff. That's not cheap. Some of the biological pollutants there, you know, you got animal dander. Basically, those are minute scales from hair, feathers, or skin on that. Infection agents, again, bacteria or viruses in there. You know, doesn't talk about the COVID-19 in there, but we got bacteria that's around there that can make you sick and everything else in there as well. And pollen. I know that's something I suffer from severely right now and stuff. Or my allergies have been bothering me. Wake up, my eyes are all watery and itchy and nose are running and everything else there and stuff. That's something I got to deal with every year this time of year. So, and then you got dust mites and cockroach parts and stuff like that. Any type of bug in there and stuff is something there, you know, that can be considered a biological pollutant in the house. You know, preferably we don't want to have bugs in our house, whether it's dust mites, cockroaches, ants, you know, spiders, whatever, flies in there. You know, this is a picture of a dust mite. Of course, dust mites are microscopic. You know, that drawing's enlarged there to kind of show detail of them and everything there and stuff. And basically what the dust mites do there, they eat off that animal dander and, you know, the human skin and stuff like that there that flakes off of us and everything while we're in the house. So that is their food source. The health effect of these biological pollutants can be attributed to allergic, infectious, or toxic. Again, some of these pollutants can be very toxic in there. Except for the spread of infections indoors, allergic reactions may be the most common health problem with indoor air quality in homes today and are tied back to biological pollutants in there. Again, you know, I was telling you, I've got allergy problems right now and stuff. This time of year when everything's blooming out and stuff, I suffer from it all the time. I normally have another bout of it there, you know, in early fall there from hay fever and stuff like that. So, in that. And as we talk about this and the ventilation and everything, that's the reason it's important. If we get the air ventilated in our homes and stuff there, it's actually going to make it a healthier environment for us and stuff. I'm normally not too bad if I stay locked up in my house there and stuff. I got a pretty good filtration system, you know, on the HVAC system there. So it helps out. But, you know, this time of year here, you're out mowing the yard, doing stuff like that. I get real bad flare-ups from my allergies and everything. Some signs and symptoms of allergic reactions are watery eyes, runny nose and sneezing, nasal congestion, itching, coughing, wheezing and difficulty breathing. And you know, that's one of the things that's going on right now, and headache. You know, if you look at a lot of these symptoms here from allergic reactions and everything, a lot of those are kind of similar to what they're saying for this coronavirus going around right now. So, you know, a lot of people, they might be flipping out when they're just having their allergic reaction there, thinking that they might have the Rona going on. So, on that. You know, but most of the time, people that suffer from seasonal allergies and stuff, they kind of know, you know, when it's hitting and everything. I can kind of tell that. So, and fatigue. Toxic pollutants deals with the off-gassing of materials and their byproducts in there. You know, the toxic pollutants there and stuff that we have in our houses and everything there, it can come from almost anything that we bring in our house on there. It can come from, you know, cabinetry, grates, carpets, especially carpets. They normally load up the carpets with formaldehyde and everything in there and stuff. You know, even household cleaners and everything. Typically, if something's got a scent to it, it's probably not real good for you to be breathing in. So on that, so that's an artificial scent and everything there. So, you know, don't go be puffing in a bunch of air freshener and everything as you're spraying that, or, you know, don't try to sniff up the Lysol as you're cleaning the house and everything like that. Yeah, it's kind of a refreshing scent, but that's also off-gassing stuff there and everything in high enough quantities can be bad. Not to mention there, some of your household cleaners might contain ammonia in them, which can be deadly at high levels. So, you know, it's something to pay careful attention to. Not mix certain cleaners together, like ammonia and bleach, for instance. And where biological pollutants may be found in the home, okay? Dirty air conditioners, especially when you're dealing with window air conditioners and stuff like that. Dirty humidifiers or dehumidifiers. Bathroom without vents or windows in it. Dirty refrigerator drip pans. You know, you got a frost-free refrigerator in there and everything. Those all have a drip pan in there. And those things should be clean. They'll get a sludge and a buildup in them on that. laundry room with an unvented dryer. That's one thing we always try to take care of here in the weatherization process is we vent that dryer outside. An unventilated attic. An unventilated attic there, basically if you're not having enough ventilation in there to get the moisture out of that attic and everything there and stuff, you could start creating mold and mildew growth there, on the roof deck or on the insulation or whatever in there. Carpet on a damp basement floor, okay? A lot of basements there, even when they look dry and everything else, there's still a lot of moisture there that, can be transferred up through that concrete, especially into carpet and everything. So carpet's kind of a bad thing, period, in there as far as pollutants. I don't care if you sweep every day, your house is pretty much spotless. In fact, carpet's been down there for a couple years and stuff. There's dirt ground into that, trapped down in there and stuff. And if you've ever been around or ever done it yourself, ripped up some carpet that's been in a house there for a few years and stuff, you can really see how dirty it is. Probably almost want to have a hazmat suit on there as you're doing that and stuff. So, bedding, okay? Our sheets, our blankets, our pillows, our mattresses and stuff there. As we're sleeping in there and everything, our body's constantly shedding in there. We have dead skin cells there that shed off constantly in there, hair as well as that and stuff. And that could attract dust mites and everything in there to our bedding as well. Plus just the dust from our shedding skin and everything there can actually cause allergic reactions in there. Closet on an outside wall. Especially if that outside wall's not insulated and everything, you could get condensation issues in there. Basically where you've got that closet on that outside wall and possibly too much stuff in it where there's not enough ventilation. That even goes for possibly having furniture tied up against the wall there and everything. If you don't have central air conditioning or something in the house there and stuff in the summertime, you can get high humidity levels in your home, and that can actually create mold and everything else if you don't have enough ventilation in and around behind your furniture. Dirty heating and air conditioning systems, okay? Try to have a good filtration system in your HVAC unit. That's going to help control a lot of the pollutants and everything there that's in your home. The other thing with your central air conditioning systems and everything there and stuff is the coils, the A coils there on your units. Those things will get a sludge and everything built up on them and the drain pan on them and stuff there that should be cleaned regularly there on that. Dogs or cats, okay? I've got a dog and I've got a cat both inside the house there. I got hardwood floors in my house. We sweep every day, and I swear I'm putting together a small dog there with the hair that comes off of them. So that's just the nature between those two animals. They're shedding too. Theirs is a lot more noticeable there because it's hair, whereas ours is basically just, dry skin cells there that's coming on. And water damage. If you got water damage around your windows, or from the roof or basement or anything like that there, anytime when you have water coming into the house there, it could be from a water leak inside the house and everything there and stuff. Basically, if you've got moisture and some type of food source there and everything, that could create mold or mildew in that. So that's the two things there that a fungi needs. It needs moisture and a food source. It doesn't need light, so in there. And what do you consider to be some health hazards to pay attention to? Okay. In the interior, fleas, okay? Especially if somebody's got pets and everything there and stuff, they could have fleas in there. That's very common on that. Unfortunately, I've been in some weatherization homes there and stuff where my legs were turning black just right after I walked in there where the thing was infested with fleas on that. That's something you shouldn't be in. You know, that is an infestation like that is a good reason to defer a job on that. You know, if it's someplace you don't want to be, don't try to expect a crew to go in there and do work with it and everything. So, cockroaches, same thing. You know, anybody can get cockroaches and stuff there and everything. You know, you can bring them home from the grocery store, stuff like that. You know, a lot of times that they are in the food there, especially, you know, you start bringing home, you know, fresh vegetables, stuff like that there. If they're in some type of container and everything there, they could be cockroaches. So big thing is, you know, if, you know, you can't necessarily look down on somebody there because they got cockroaches and stuff. They might not be able to afford to have an exterminator come in and stuff like that. Not necessarily that they're dirty or anything like that. So, thing to keep in mind. Pets, pet species, not peat species. It's supposed to be pet. That's misspelling there on that. You know, some people there's not too good about taking care of their animals that's in the house. They just kind of let it go on there. You know, you got crazy cat lady that's got 30 cats and she just got a room in there and that's their litter box, that whole room. So, you know, that happens. Of course, mold and mildew on that, you know. And again, mildew is something there that's pretty commonplace there. Any place there, you're going to have a high moisture content and stuff. There could be a little bit of mildew, you know, especially like in around a bathtub, something like that, as long as it's not in excess. And mold, the same thing on that. You know, if we see mold, we want to try to figure out what's causing it. And it could be the fact that the house needs more ventilation. So, in there. And that's one thing we can kind of address. It could be, you know, there's a leak somewhere, you know, whether it be possibly a roof leak or a plumbing leak or something that's contributing to that. And it might be something we might be able to take care of. Big thing is on that mold and stuff there, we just don't want to mess with anything over 10 square feet on that. That's kind of our magic number there on that. And that doesn't mean you got to get a tape measure out and measure it exactly. I mean, you can do a good guesstimation on that and stuff. But one thing to kind of remember is if you see mold and stuff there on the outside of a wall or ceiling and stuff, odds are it's probably just as bad, if not worse, there in the other side of that drywall, inside the ceiling or the wall on that. Rodents, you know, rats, mice on there. I guess that could be squirrels or chipmunks and everything else. Those are rodents too in there and stuff. You know, typically the rodents we're more concerned about in the house there is going to be your rats and mice on that. You know, it's pretty common there. A person get a mouse in their house there in the wintertime stuff, especially me. I live out with a bunch of farm fields around me, and even though my house is sealed up pretty good there and stuff, it always seems like I get one or two in there that my cat brings to me, and everything there in the fall when the weather starts getting cold. Snakes, you know, snakes like to have a spot where they can get into the sun and they can get into the shade. They're a cold blooded animal there and stuff. They got to use the sun to warm up themselves, and when they're getting too hot, they need to be able to get in the shade quick. So a lot of the places in the housing there and everything, attics, crawl spaces and stuff, those are perfect things there for snakes. And that could be because they also have a food source there. You know, there could be rats or mice in that crawl space or attic there that they're actually feeding on too. So something to pay attention to. On the exterior there, okay, you got pets, pet species in there. Again, there, you don't want to step in any landmines or anything there as you're walking around somebody's house trying to work on it. You want to pay attention to make sure that they don't have any dangerous pets in there and stuff. You know, somebody might say, oh, my dog won't bite anybody and stuff there. Well, maybe the dog hasn't been around anybody there that it doesn't know and stuff. So I love dogs, but every dog has a potential to bite, so something there to pay attention to. So bats and bird species, okay, that's something we really need to pay attention to there when we're dealing with attics and everything. You know, there's disease there you can get from bats and bird species there. I can't remember what the name of it is exactly on that, but basically it's a respiratory illness and stuff there that once you get it, you've got it. It never goes away, and it can severely affect you for the rest of your life. Again, we talked about rodents, snakes, bees, wasps, and hornets, okay? You know, as inspectors out there and stuff, that's something he should be looking for. You know, is there any bees nests out here I need to make the crew aware of on this? Hopefully the crews, when they go out there, has always got a few cans of bee spray on them and stuff like that and everything. And bees can be up in the attic as well, okay? So, and especially this time of year here, I mean, I know we're not doing much right now, but maybe the inspection was done in winter time, and the crew's just getting out about this time of year when all the bees are coming out and stuff like that. There might not have been anything there that the inspector noticed, but now there is. So just because the inspector doesn't necessarily write it down doesn't mean that they wasn't doing their job. It just might not have been present at the time they done the inspection. So protein in urine from rats and mice is a potent allergen, and when it dries, it can become airborne and spread out through the air. So, you know, somebody has a rodent problem in their house and everything there, they could have real bad allergies and stuff there and everything on that. Now you should have a brief understanding of the pollutants and health hazards encountered during weatherization. So, I'm going to switch over PowerPoints here real quick. All right. Everybody see that all right?
Looks good.
All right.
Yep.
All right. This is one of the sections there out of the Healthy Homes curriculum. They have their own curriculum on that. And this one here really kind of pertains specifically there to ventilation. And basically the way they kind of look at everything, they look at the house as a system as well in Healthy Homes. And they've got 7 main things there that they try to do. They try to keep it dry, keep it clean, keep it pest-free, keep it ventilated, keep it safe, keep it contaminant-free, and keep it maintained. So, and this section here is going to go over keeping it ventilated. Some of the objectives here on this: be able to name 5 unhealthy conditions associated with poor ventilation. List 5 things in a household that need ventilation on there. And name 3 things that power airflow in a building. List 3 household contaminants that can be removed by ventilation. And describe 2 ways ventilation reduces air contaminant levels. Pollutants are found in concentrations 2 to 5 times higher indoors than outdoors on there, you know, which makes sense. We're in an enclosed area on that. You know, there's not necessarily a good way for those pollutants once they get in there to escape. Those pollutants, you know, we can carry them in on our clothes on that. Pollen this time of year, you're outside, you come in, you got that all over your clothes and everything. You just brought that in. You know, again, the dust as we're shedding our skin or our pets are shedding and stuff like that. Those are pollutants there. So, and proper ventilation can actually reduce the hazards of this here on that. Volatile organic compounds, moisture, environmental tobacco smoke, okay, particulate matter, allergens, mold, carbon monoxide, and formaldehyde on there. You know, talking about your average house there and stuff, and this was on a survey done in 2009. I'm going to say it's probably still pretty similar here with these numbers. Might have changed a little bit on that. But, you know, type of heating fuel, water heater, 51% of them is piped gas. You know, it could be natural gas or propane. 41% have electric water heaters on that. A clothes dryer, 21% is piped gas, 78% electric. Primary heating equipment, 63% have a warm air furnace, 11% have a steam or hot water system, which is a boiler on that, and 12% have an electric heat pump in there. But 1.1 million homes have room heaters without a flue. That's unvented space heaters, okay? Another million homes there rely on stoves in there. And 111,000 homes there rely on a cooking stove as their primary heat source on that. And basically that cooking stove is just a big unvented space heater, okay, on that. All the byproducts of the combustion and everything's escaping right directly out into the living space. Some heating problems found in homes there. 9% were uncomfortably cold for more than 24 hours. And that number actually goes up to 10% there if it's renters, okay? And being uncomfortably cold for more than 24 hours, you know, possibly that could be something to do with they've run out of fuel in there, poor design on the heating system's broke, something like that. 1% had inadequate heating capacity in there, and that went up 2% there for renters and residents below the poverty level on that. Okay, that's the people we're dealing with. There's people, you know, that act below the poverty level on that. So in there, inadequate heating capacity. You know, maybe they've got a gas cook stove that they're trying to heat their whole house with. Okay? They don't have a central furnace or any other type of heat in the house on that. It could be that they have a way undersized furnace there for what they need on that. 0.8% had inadequate insulation in their homes. Okay? That's something we can go in and take care of in weatherization. That number goes up there, 1.5% for renters and 1.6% for residents below the poverty level on that. And, you know, sources of combustion contaminants on that, oven as a heater, okay? Spillage from a furnace, water heater, fireplace, a ventless heater or a fireplace, car exhaust from an attached garage, okay? You know, using an oven as a heater there, that's a bad thing. I remember, you know, had my own HVAC company there and everything. And, you know, people were less concerned when their furnace went down in the wintertime than what they were when their air conditioning went down in the summertime. It's like, oh, we'll just fire up the oven, or, you know, we'll get by here on that and stuff when the furnace went down. But, you know, until I really got into weatherization here and stuff, I didn't realize how bad that was for them to be firing up that oven and stuff there to heat with. Again, that's just an unvented combustion appliance in a home. And I guarantee you, if they're trying to heat their house, they're not going to turn on their range hood exhaust fan that could be vented to the outside on that. And, you know, straight from the showroom there and stuff, a gas oven's allowed to put out 800 parts per million air free. Okay. I don't know about you. I don't want to be breathing that and everything there, and it's not going to be good being in the house with that and use as heat. Same thing with your ventless heaters and fireplaces and stuff. Most of those ventless heaters and everything, if a person actually reads their directions with that, they will tell you to crack a window. Okay, that's to allow two things: fresh air to come in and to allow the pollutants to escape out of the house. Nobody cracks a window with it. Okay, and you know, car exhaust there from an attached garage. You know, that's something we definitely try to address in weatherization. We try to make sure that garage is sealed off from the living environment of the home and stuff. I still think that was one of the dumbest things we ever done there was, you know, bring our car pretty much inside our home on that, by having an attached garage there to the house. So. Carbon monoxide. Some effects there from that: fatigue, headaches, dizziness, confusion. Again, it's known as a silent killer on that. You can't smell it, you can't taste it and everything there. Basically, you start getting, you know, a headache, start feeling a little dizzy, and at high enough concentrations, exposed for it long enough there, it will kill you. So on that. Nitrogen dioxide, okay? Or also referred to as NOx. It causes eye, nose, and throat irritation, shortness of breath. It's also a main contributor to acid rain and stuff there. So, carbon monoxide limits on here. You look at the EPA on that. The outdoor ambient air maximum level there is 9 parts per million for 8 hours. 35 parts per million for an hour on that. Consumer Product Safety Commission, Underwriter Laboratories. You know, here's these UL certified carbon monoxide alarms here and stuff that Rudy was kind of talking about. You know, they're not allowed to alarm until they reach 70 parts per million there, and then they're allowed up to 4 hours before they ever go off, okay? At 150 parts per million, they're allowed 10 to 50 minutes before they ever go off. And at 400 parts per million there, it could be all the way up to 15 minutes before they go off, if they do, okay? Not all of them necessarily do alarm on that. You know, that's something we put in homes and everything there, trying to help out and everything. But one of the big things we can do in weatherization is to sit there and make sure that the appliances are vented to the outside correctly and are drafting, and to do a combustion analysis on there and make sure we have the proper combustion process going on in our appliances in our homes. And you can look at the different levels. Canada's got a slightly different level here, and the World Health Organization on there a little bit different as well. Again, the Consumer Product Safety Commission there recommends placing near sleeping area, put on every level of the home to provide extra protection. Do not install directly above or beside fuel burning appliances, okay? Which is kind of silly. Basically, it shouldn't make any difference how close that is to the appliance there and stuff, unless that appliance is putting off CO into the atmosphere. So, but follow the manufacturer's instructions when you're installing. And again, they should be installed according to the manufacturer's instructions. You know, one CO alarm should be installed in the hallway outside the bedrooms of each separate sleeping area of the home. And approximately 500 carbon monoxide deaths plus more than 15,000 non-fire related healthcare visits per year from carbon monoxide on that. And I'm going to say this number here might actually be kind of low. I'm going to say that's probably even a little bit higher. But you look there, 15,000 non-fire related healthcare visits from people suffering from CO poisoning, okay? You can suffer from CO poisoning even at low levels on that. CO is something there that stays in your body. It takes a long time for it to work its way out of your body there and stuff. So on that, you know, you sat there, by the time you're feeling the effects, yes, you need to get out to fresh air and stuff if your alarm goes off in your house and everything there and stuff. But just because you go immediately out to fresh air doesn't mean those symptoms are necessarily going to relieve, because that carbon monoxide is actually trapped in your body. It's going to take a while for your body to actually flush that out of the system. You know, again there, health effects there, higher rates of respiratory irritation and illness in housing with poor ventilation, common colds, influenza, pneumonia, bronchitis, okay, and increased rates of absence from school or work, okay. You know, if you don't have enough ventilation in your home there and stuff, yes, it's going to make you more likely to catch a cold or get the flu or anything like that. And you know, even if you don't get it, if you've got kids and stuff there, maybe they get it. Well, what's going to happen when the kids are all sick? You know, everybody's kind of experiencing that right now. Okay, schools are all closed down and stuff there. Daycares are pretty much closed down and everything there right now. So basically, mom or dad's pretty much got to stay home there and take care of the kids, or possibly take them to the doctor or whatever, depending on how bad the situation is. So, you know, that could be an absence from school and an absence from work as well. So, you know, and if you, hopefully, you know, everybody working here in weatherization there, their agencies providing them, you know, sick days there they can use and stuff. But a lot of people that work there and stuff don't have sick days. So, you know, if they miss work, they just don't get paid that day. So again, there, we want to keep the thing well ventilated on that. Yeah, looking at these two buildings here, which one's well ventilated building? This one's all wide open, or this one it's all enclosed? Well, that's pretty easy. It's going to be this little shelter area here where everything's wide open. Whenever we start enclosing stuff there and everything, it's not going to be as well ventilated as, you know, what it should be. So when we're doing building ventilation there on that, we're looking at local exhaust ventilation to remove moisture, odors, and other pollutants at the source, okay? And those local ventilation there and stuff, we're looking at your bathroom exhaust fans, your vented kitchen range hoods, your dryers vented to the outside on that. Whole house ventilation for supplying fresh air to reduce contaminants by dilution in there. That whole house ventilation, that is an ASHRAE fan being installed. That is considered whole house ventilation, okay? Whether we're installing an exhaust or a supply, because nature kind of likes to have a balance in there. If we're exhausting air out of the house, there's going to be, for every CFM of air that we're actually pulling out of that house, there's a CFM of fresh air coming into that house. So to replace that stale air that was in the house with polluted air that's in the house. And if it's doing supply air, we're blowing the air into the house there, and that's going to dilute the pollutants there. And again, for every CFM we blow into the house, air is going to be exiting out through exfiltration there in the home. So control of airflow through the building. You know, we want to be able to control that so we don't have crazy airflows there that can't carry contaminants in and around the house. You know, we want to make sure we have like our dusty, dirty attic spaces sealed off from the house well, okay? Same thing, we might not want to be pulling stuff up out of our foundation spaces, whether it be a basement or a crawl space or anything like that. So, you know, preferably if we're going to have a little bit of leakage, we'd probably like to see that maybe around our doors and windows in the home there, where it's coming directly from the outside. And, you know, and understanding ventilation there, the key concepts of that. If any portion of the air that leaves the house, the same amount went, or that's what I just went over with you. And air, like water, always seeks the path of least resistance in there. So, you know, the bigger the hole, the smoother the hole, the more air is going to move through it on there. And when air is heated there, it's going to rise. And when it's cooled, it's going to fall on there. Air can be hot, cold, wet, dry, or polluted when it enters or exits. Temperature differences, okay? What powers air movement in a home on that? You know, when we got temperature differences, when it's cold outside and we've got our house heated up there and stuff, that's when we typically run into having a lot of stack effect in the home. And basically that is the warm heated air in the house rising up and escaping out toward the top of the home. And when that's doing that, that's bringing in air from the outside in there and stuff to replace that with. And that typically happens the more of a temperature difference you've got. Again, in the wintertime, cold outside, warm inside. This time of year here where the temperature might be about equal there and stuff, you have very little stack effect going on. Fans, okay? You know, this is just a window fan that they've got in there for some ventilation to open up the window. You know, depending on which way they got that fan turned, it's either blowing in or sucking air out of the house on that. And, you know, that's kind of a controlled ventilation source right there. They're using a mechanical system there to actually control airflow on that. And then the wind, okay? As the wind blows there and stuff, it's going to cause pressure differences along the house. It's going to cause a positive pressure on the side of the house there that it's blowing and hitting on, and a negative pressure there on the downwind side of the house on that. Good example of that's when you have your windows open in there and stuff. If you got all your windows open in the house, the way the wind's blowing there, your curtains or drapes are going to be blowing out away from the window. And on the opposite side of the house, or the downward wind side of it there, basically the curtains are going to be sucked in up against your screen and stuff. Typical homes do not have a planned supply of fresh air. We depend on leakage such as windows and doors and cracks. This is usually not adequate on there. Most of the homes we go into and stuff there, it's not adequate because the simple fact is we've got leakage coming in from places that we don't want. Like I say, maybe that attic, maybe that foundation space and stuff. Airflow needs designed holes on there. Again, you got a dryer, we run the vent to the outside. That is a designed hole. Bath and kitchen exhaust vents, again, those are designed holes going to the outside. Central vacuum outlet. Most of your central vacuums there are vented to the outside there. And ventilation intake and exhaust, okay? They have a ventilation system set up here and stuff. It's actually bringing air in and exhausting air out. This would be like an HRV or ERV here. And a fresh air inlet or outlet. And then chimneys. And, you know, your furnaces, combustion appliances, hot water tanks, stuff like that there. They are all got designed holes in them there to take the byproducts and stuff from combustion outside. You know, when dealing with multifamily homes there and stuff, they definitely have more concerns there with fresh air supply. Their neighbors are closer together. Typically the buildings are taller. They have more of a stack effect there in cold weather and everything that's causing it. So when you're dealing with big multifamily homes there and everything, it is pretty important that in the design of it there, that ventilation is included. And you know what you're looking for here, you're looking for bath, dryer, and range exhaust fans, okay? Gas stove used as a heater. Do the windows work in there? You know, just because there's a window there, you know, you need to try to make sure that it opens. Talk to the homeowner. Ask them if they have any windows that, you know, they can't get open or anything like that. Do they notice a smoke alarm going off or a CO alarm going off? They've got unvented gas or kerosene heaters in the home. Hot water tanks vented to the outside if it's combustion appliance. Furnaces, boilers, and fireplaces are vented. Is there any rooms in the home without windows? Is there lingering odors? Stay aware. Do the windows fog up? If they have windows fogging up and everything, that's a real good sign there that there's probably not enough ventilation in that home, because the moisture is getting built up in that home and causing condensation on those windows. As that warm air comes in contact with that cold glass on those windows, it condensates and fogs those windows up. You know, things that need exhaust ventilation, again, bathrooms, clothes dryers, kitchen ranges, boilers, furnaces, hot water heaters, fireplaces, and wood-burning stoves. We definitely want to make sure a fireplace or wood-burning stoves vented to the outside. That's going to be pretty obvious. You want somewhere where that smoke's going to get out, plus all the other combustion byproducts from it. I don't think anybody's going to have a wood-burning stove that's not vented to the outside in their home. So, of course, I say that. I'm sure it's probably out there somewhere. So, using it as a smoke lodge or something. You know, and if there is an exhaust, does it actually work? Just because there's one there doesn't mean that it's actually working. You know, here they're showing smoke. You know, they're puffing smoke up there, see if it's getting drawn to the outside. Well, that's saying, okay, yeah, it's moving some air and everything. But basically what we do, we measure that. We want to know how many CFMs that fan's actually moving. And we do that with the exhaust fan flow meter. And I've got a little video here and everything that I'm going to show here later on in this presentation. You know, the Charmin method, that's another quick, easy test. Does it suck the Charmin up there or toilet paper and hold it up against the fan or not? That's telling you, yeah, that thing's moving air. The other big thing is that might be moving air, but where is it moving to? You need to check to make sure that it is actually exhausted to the outside. A lot of homes are bad. I know you guys work out in the field and everything. You see this constantly. A lot of these exhaust fans aren't vented outside. That at best, they might be run over to the soffit. They might be run up to a roof vent or, you know, something like that. A lot of times they do not have a termination going to the outside. That's one thing there that we correct there in our weatherization process. You know, do they have a damper on them? Everything that we do there should have some type of damper on there to close it off, so when that fan isn't running on there, that the air can't just travel in on that. Look, this here's a dryer hood, I believe, on there, and you can see it's got a closable damper right here on that. You know, and that's something that should be checked there too. Maybe a little consumer energy education and everything going on, making sure that they clean this where that damper can actually shut and lint doesn't get all built up around it where that's not shutting properly. And this is something else we see a lot here with bathroom exhaust fans. Got this cheap plastic flex duct, and it's just run like a snake into there. Well, the problem with that is where these valleys are down here where this is all hanging down and everything. If this fan's actually doing what it's supposed to be doing and pulling moisture out of this bathroom and everything, that moisture is going to condense and collect right down in here, and pretty soon it's just going to block that off, and then nothing's going to be escaping out of this. Plus, it could possibly cause that to sags, rip, start leaking, and then you've got water problems down below on your ceiling. This is a good example. It's talking about the dryer vent. Here you can see how the lint's building up around this here that needs to be cleaned out. And it's a good recommendation there. You know, a homeowner should clean their dryer vent out there once a year on that. I actually recommend, depending on how much laundry a person does and everything, maybe even a couple times a year. Me personally, I clean mine out there in the fall and in the spring on that. I've got a pretty nice setup on mine. My vent goes directly through the wall out of my dryer. Basically, I can just pull my termination kit off, clean it out, get right into my dryer there and stuff, clean it out, put it back on there. So I know not everyone's that easy. It's actually got ductwork running on it and stuff. So, but you know, it should be cleaned out at least once a year. And in the kitchen there, you know, we've got ventilation in that, local ventilation to help remove the moisture, odors, and grease. All right. We have a filter on these kitchen exhaust fans on there. That filter is basically to catch the grease, so it doesn't go in there and, you know, gunk up our fan and everything there in that range hood on that. That's something that needs to be cleaned regularly as well. Of course, when we're boiling, you know, water to make pasta or, you know, cooking potatoes or whatever on there and stuff there, you know, we want that moisture to get out of the house most of the time. And odors, you know. Not everything we cook necessarily smells the greatest when it's cooking there and stuff. We might have to put all the ingredients together to get that, you know, great aroma and the taste mixing together and stuff there. So a lot of times you might want to get those odors out of there. Or you're frying bacon or something like that there and you don't want to have your whole house smelling like bacon, driving your dog nuts. So he's standing there watching you there like, where's my bacon at? And if it's a gas oven or range, okay, the other thing that's doing is actually removing the byproducts of combustion, the CO, the nitrogen oxides, dioxides, and moisture on there. So, and it must be vented to the outside. Those grease recirculators there that they have out are just worthless, okay? They suck the stuff up, run it through a filter, and blow the air right back out in your face on that. I honestly don't know why they even make those things. Because I think that gives people a false sense that that's actually doing something to help with air quality in the home, and it's not. So, and it should be reasonably quiet, okay? And that should go with any exhaust fan when you're installing that. And as we get into ASHRAE, we'll talk a little bit about the sound requirements and stuff for that. But we don't want to necessarily leave any exhaust fan in a home there. It sounds like a jet engine when we turn it on and stuff. So it's loud. A lot of times people's not going to run it. Okay. Here's showing a couple different range hood configurations. This is a microwave installed above the stove here. You can see it's actually got a vent going to the outside. That's what we want to see, okay? And then we got this here, which appears to be a grease recirculator here on this. They don't have the cabinet open, so I don't know if there's any ductwork, you know, that's going up off that, but these louvers are opened up, so I'm going to say that is probably just blowing air right back out into the house, which is really not what we want. Multifamily, exhaust only, new construction. You know, again, we don't mess with new construction, but a lot of your bigger multifamily homes and stuff, they will have the ventilation built into them on that. It could be a fresh air intake going in if they're got central heating in there and stuff going into that, or it could be exhaust fans all tied in, multi-branch systems tied in together, going out. Your combustion appliances, again, showing a water heater here, vented to the outside. It looks like this tying into masonry chimney. If it is tying into masonry chimney, we want to make sure that's lined properly and sized properly there for the hot water tank. Gentleman here's checking here, he's using smoke, seeing if the byproducts are getting drawn up out of that, which is a good thing. Okay, he's checking for spillage at least. And up here in this top, he's actually doing, measuring the CO reading in this on there. See how much CO that thing is making. All right. If we have proper combustion going on in our appliances, it should be at a 0 CO or real close to it. Okay. CO is just a byproduct of incomplete combustion. So when we're talking about air movement in a home here and stuff, you get houses there and stuff where the doors are real tight there when they're closed on the carpet. Well, you see this black streak going through here. That's telling me there's a pressure imbalance between these two rooms on this. Something's either pushing the air out of this room under this door or pulling the air in under that. And this carpet is acting just like a filter in there, and it's catching all the dirt and everything that's going in or out of this room.
Oh, shit's getting everything, man. Next thing you know, it's going to be messing with the bees.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and one of the tests we do here for this and everything there and stuff is our room-to-room test where we're actually checking the pressure imbalances and stuff here. So
I'm going to have to get Snow her little COVID mask. I bet you someone makes them. I would not. Hey, now someone's going to make them. We should make some masks for the animals.
That's a good idea, Jose. Why don't you get on that there? You can come up with a good idea there. I'll try to sponsor you on that. All right, leaks and ducts. That's something else that we take care of. That's going to cause pressure imbalances in the home depending on where the leaks are at. They can actually, what they call mine contaminated air from garages, crawl spaces, attics, spaces like that. And plus it costs energy on there. We have conditioned air that is leaking out of the supply ducts up into an attic or, what we consider an unconditioned crawl space and everything there and stuff. Well, that's costing us money. Same thing is if we have return leaks where it's sucking that air in from the attic or the crawl space and stuff. That air is typically going to be colder or, in the summertime, possibly a lot warmer if we're running air conditioning and everything, and it's going to make our HVAC system work a lot harder. It's either going to have to heat that air up more or it's going to have to try to cool that air off more. And again, nature kind of likes to have a balance in that. If we're leaking, say, 100 CFMs of air there on our supply side, well, that's going to make our house and our returns are completely sealed. Okay, we have no leakage on our returns. They're perfect. But we've got that 100 CFMs of air leaking out on our supply side of our duct system there and everything. Well, basically, that supply air, every CFM that's going out of that should be going back into that return. So if it's not going back into that return's going to make that air up from someplace else. So it's going to create a negative pressure in our house, and it's going to be pulling air in from different spaces and everything stuff through any cracks or crevices or anything that it can on there. Hey, Jose, could you mute yourself, please? And, how is the duct system run and everything in there and stuff, too, makes a big difference. You're using this flex duct here and stuff. We don't want to have sharp bends in this. Okay, that's going to reduce the airflow. the airflow is already reduced on this flex duct than what it is from, you know, smooth metal pipe and stuff. So we're definitely not doing ourselves any favors here by having something like this running in there. And here, you know, this is something we don't necessarily do in weatherization unless you're taking your EA field test, is the duct blaster or duct pressurization device. And this is actually getting a measurement of how many CFMs of duct leakage there is in the home. Houses that go for an Energy Star rating and stuff like that, this test has to be done on. And a lot of places there, it's actual local building code and everything that tests are done on here. I know that's something there that Ohio hasn't really got into, but for instance, Kentucky and even West Virginia and everything are requiring this be done on all new construction and everything. So
I am in the James Marshall.
All right. So go on here. Common thing right here, we got a filter on this, no cover. You know, this should be tightly sealed in here. We don't want all this air escaping in around this filter. You know, if it's going in on this side on there, it's still going to kind of go through the filter before it gets into the system. But do we actually want our air getting pulled out of our CAS? No. Okay. That could create a negative pressure on this. You know, we definitely don't want it coming in on this side here because that air is getting totally unfiltered on that. So we want to make sure we have a tight sealing cover on this. They make all different kinds. You can get magnetic strips and everything that seem to work pretty good on that. So, when we talk about that, your filters are all rated on there and stuff. And typically what we look at here and everything in the weatherization program is the MERV rating. And any new installation that we put in an HVAC system there, we want that to have a minimum of a MERV 6 air filter. So, and basically that MERV rating there and stuff, the higher the MERV rating, the more stuff it's going to filter out. There's a lot of different rating systems out there. Not everybody actually uses the MERV rating on this. But, you know, if you pay attention to it there and stuff, basically when you start talking about a MERV 6 and everything, you're looking at a pleated filter on that, not the cheap little blue see-through fiberglass ones or white fiberglass ones and everything. And they'll actually start stopping a lot of the stuff there, you know, that could be the pollutants in the house, pollen, stuff like that. So, and here when we're talking about the MERV ratings here and stuff, here's a little scale. Again, we want a 6, a minimum of a 6, and that is on a new system. Okay, I cannot stress that enough. If you try to put a high MERV rated filter on an older system, it might just be causing you all kinds of problems on that. Because the system might not be able to handle it. The blower on that system might not, the ductwork might not be properly sized for it, whatever. So on a new install, we want to be right in this area here with a MERV 6. And basically that's going to capture mold, spores, hairspray, cement dust, okay, along with pollen, sanding dust, textile and carpet fibers, so forth like that. And again, the higher we get up here, and you can see this, we get up to 9 and 12 on that. That starts catching lead dust and everything else. So 17 to 20, all right. This here is something that you're looking at that's probably in these hospitals here and these negative pressure rooms that's filtering all the air out of it, where it's dealing with this corona right now. So And again, here's a MERV 8 versus a MERV 10. You can see what the MERV 8 covers here on this compared to what this MERV 10 does. Okay? MERV 10 is a lot better filter. But if your system isn't designed for that, you're just asking for problems if you put one of those in. And some of the other rating systems there, you got a HEPA air filter. The American Lung Association there has a rating system. Ultra allergen reduction filters, okay, performance ratings and stuff like that. You just kind of have to look at them there when you're buying your filters and see, you know, what they're filtrating there and, you know, if that's going to work for you. Like I say, everything's not necessarily rated in a MERV, but you should be able to get the equivalent in, you know, these other types. And, you know, this here is just your basic, you know, cheap little filter, okay, on that. And I want everybody to pay close attention to what this says right here, okay? Change filters monthly to enjoy all the benefits of clean air. Protect expensive equipment, help remove allergens, save fuel, save electricity, and get peak performance out of your furnace or central air, okay? And, you know, these filters say this, and, you know, these aren't the greatest filters in the world. They're gonna, you know, I kind of like to call these boulder stoppers. They're gonna collect the big pieces of stuff there and everything in there. But even those are telling you to change those monthly. Now, again, you get in a month like this where you might not be running your furnace or anything like that and everything. You know, you might get by with not having to change that out and stuff. But, you know, during the peak of heating season, cooling season and stuff like that, you should probably be changing those filters out every month. Some of the better filters and stuff there, you know, they might be rated to last 2 or 3 months on there. Still not a bad idea to at least check them, okay, and see how bad they are in there. And if you get one of the ultra filtration systems, the big cartridges there, you know, it's about 6 inches thick and stuff, those things typically rated there to last a year. So, again, that's going to depend on the conditions and everything in the house. So, if you live out on a dirt road somewhere and stuff, it might not last as long as what it is if you're in the middle of town. So, but checking that air filter regularly is important. Yeah, key messages here. Ventilation plays an important role in maintaining health. Ventilation is necessary to remove humidity and dilute and remove contaminants. Local exhaust ventilation removes contaminants from a point source. Whole house ventilation uses fresh air to dilute the contaminants. Okay. And then these objectives here. Hopefully you guys can be able to name 5 unhealthy conditions associated with poor ventilation. 5 things there in a household that need ventilation, and 3 things that power airflow, and 3 household contaminants that can be removed by ventilation, and describe 2 ways ventilation reduces air contaminant levels. All right. Let's take about a 10-minute break here, and we'll get started back up at, make it 11:20. Yeah, I got another PowerPoint here and a short little video to show you, and then I'm going to pull up the red calc here and kind of go through a simulation of that with you. See y'all back here in about 10 minutes.
We're going to ask that some of the people that's not muted, please mute yourself.
I'll see a few questions here and stuff. I'll address when we'll get started back up.
Yeah, I think too many.
No, I saw James Collier there from MyCat. And those are actually national stats there, James, if you're on here. I don't know if you took a break or not. So and Tim was able to help me out with the name of that disease there from bats and birds.
Yeah.
So lamasis. So yeah. You see that PowerPoint there, Jim?
Yep.
All right. I'm actually going to step away here for a minute there myself there. I need to run to the restroom. So.
You see that, Jamie?
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah.
I just, you know, even if they have a phone number, I can call them, but I have no way of knowing because they're not leaving an email trace either. Or I could email them. So I really have no idea who that person is. And I've seen it there a few different days.
You can go ahead and announce it
So, well,
in case I'm not looking at the chat.
yeah, I just posted something in the chat, guys. Whoever's screen name is 100005206. Could you please identify yourself in group chat or just say who it is? Because I have no idea who that can be because it's not leaving an email trace on our registration attendance documents we get from Zoom. So I want to make sure everybody gets counted. So if you could just let Jamie know in here, or I'm also setting here or in chat, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, we're just wanting to make sure everybody gets credit there and stuff for being in this, especially if your agencies are keeping track here and everything on this. So it's actually for your benefit to identify yourself.
Hey, Jamie, is Cole in there today?
Yeah, him and Dave's actually out making a video right now. So
Okay. He's wanting to get his shirt, and I understand that completely. I just, I'm trying to get a hold of them down there. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that mall is open but I'm sure that if Dave's down there, he'll just like hand it out the door to them. They're done,
Yeah.
but I just want to make sure he was in there. So I'm working on that right now.
Okay. Yeah, him and Dave, they'll be in here when we have our debrief here after. So
Okay.
Jamie,
yeah.
were you thinking of toxoplasmosis?
Yeah, I saw that in chat. Yeah, that is actually another thing there too as well. So
Yeah, and then histoplasmosis too. Sometimes that can cause blindness.
Yeah.
Real common in this area.
Yep, that's the reason why if there's feces around or guano.
Now it says mute. What did my name do?
You what?
Huh? Who was that?
Jose.
Oh. Jose, if it says mute there beside you, that just means you're muted, so you can't come through the presentation there and everything. So we got over 200 people on here. If everybody was unmuted, it'd just be chaos. So, I mean, you have the ability to unmute yourself there and stuff if, you got a question or something like that. So.
Yeah, there's some things we don't want to hear.
I'm pretty sure I got COVID-19 just from listening to whoever's hacking into their microphone.
So.
Hey, Jamie, you ought to show that chicken video.
Oh, that one where he's doing an inspection, had chickens down there in the basement.
Yeah, that was actually me. I sent that. I got that. It's shows you what can happen in people's houses, what we see.
Yeah. So I'll have to see if I can find that. So that would be a good thing to show.
I got a picture in my office of fighting roosters in a bedroom in a house. That was like couple months ago.
Yeah. No, it's amazing what you run into. So people think it's just normal there and everything, and they don't think nothing about it. And you walk in there and, you know, there's livestock in their house, and you're like, okay.
What? Don't everybody have chickens in the house?
I've done them in the basement.
We saw a chicken hopping around on one leg and one wing. I asked the guy about it. He said, a chicken that good, you don't eat it all at once.
Was it one time and the guy was slaughtering a goat?
Inside the house or outside?
In the basement.
Yeah.
And then I went back there 3 days later, and he left all the insides and everything just sitting there, and it stunk so horrible.
That's a good candidate for an ASHRAE fan.
Yeah. Or at least a deferral till they get the mess cleaned up.
I was trying to stay on topic.
Yeah, I know. So, all right. I'm going to go ahead and get started here, get back at it. So, all right. So now we're actually into the ASHRAE here. ASHRAE 62.2, that is the standard that we use for ventilation and acceptable indoor air quality in residential buildings. The current version that we are currently using right now is the 2016 version. The 2019 version is out. You know, maybe here next, not this coming program year, but maybe the following program year or something, we might roll into the 2019. But we're still using the 2016 there right now, so that's what I'm going to be going over with you in this. So. Some objectives here, being able to understand what ASHRAE 62.2 is. Learn the different elements of ASHRAE 62.2 and understand how to calculate how to calculate an ASHRAE 62.2 compliant fan CFM and be exposed to different indoor air quality ventilation strategies and learn some inexpensive methods there to measure exhaust fan CFM and be exposed to the practical weatherization workflow sequence. Okay. Again, what ASHRAE 62.2 is, that's the standard that defines the roles of and minimum requirements for mechanical and natural ventilation systems and the building envelope intended to provide acceptable indoor air quality in low-rise residential buildings. All right, we got 4 different houses here. They're in 4 different parts of the country. Basically, they're all going to have their separate ventilation requirements in here. You know, I know this house here, this is down in Puerto Rico. You know, this here could be up here in northern Ohio or Pennsylvania, Michigan, something like that with some snow on the ground. Got another old farmhouse here that's, you know, somewhere up here in the north on that. and then just a block home. You know, this thing might be down in the Carolinas or something like that. They have a lot of block homes down in around that area. You know, you can't go in and just do a cookie cutter approach there to every house, okay? They're different. The people living in them's different. Their habits are different. And the leakage, the air leakage in every house is going to be different. So there's just not one approach that's going to fit for every house. And when we're talking about the ASHRAE formula there, it consists of 3 different parts. And I mean, you know, I'm going to go through these calculations real quick here, but I'm actually going to pull up the red calc sheet, which is what everybody's supposed to be using there to do their calculations on this and go through it. So you guys don't have to do this long-handed or anything like this, but hopefully you'll get an understanding of what, you know, we're talking about with the ASHRAE formula on here. So you've got the base formula on that, and you've got the alternative compliance supplement and the infiltration credit. And basically when we're looking at this, this is for new and existing buildings, okay? Basically the base formula on here, what we want to do is take 3/100ths of the floor area plus 7.5 CFMs times the number of bedrooms plus 1, or the total number of people, whichever is greater. That is the base formula on that. And then you also have the alternative compliance supplement and the infiltration credit. And here, this is going to go through the thing of calculating the base formula on this. Basically, we have this house, 1,500 square foot, 1 story, 3 bedrooms, 4 occupants, okay? Number of bedrooms plus 1, that means we got 4. This thing's located in Columbus, Ohio. So basically what we're going to do here, we are going to take 7.5 times number of bedrooms plus 1, which is 4 on there, and then we're going to plus 3/100ths of the floor area. So if we do the amount of people times 7.5 CFM, that comes to 30 CFM. If we take 3 CFM for every 100 square foot of floor area, or 3/100ths of the floor area on there, that comes to 45 CFM. If we add this 30 and 45 together, that is telling us that we need 75 CFMs of continuous ventilation. Again, this is just the base formula on here. And this is presuming that there is a 50 CFM fan in each bathroom and a 100 CFM fan in the kitchen on that. And this is typically all that's going to be done for new construction when people's applying this to new construction. But we're going in and we're doing retrofit work and weatherization. So that's where the alternative compliance comes in and the infiltration credit. Okay. So when we're talking about this here, but what if we don't have adequate local ventilation? Again, the kitchen's required to have that 100 CFM or 5 air changes per hour continuous based on the kitchen volume. The bathroom requires 50 CFM on demand or 20 CFM continuous, and it's not required in half baths. Okay. If there is not a tub or a shower in there, it does not have to have a fan in that. So operable windows in those rooms reduce the deficit by 20 CFM. So for instance, let's say we go into a bathroom that doesn't have a fan in there, but it does have an operable window in that. That means instead of having a 50 CFM deficit there, I can subtract the 20 from that window there, and then I'm only going to have a 30 CFM deficit. And as it goes on here, it says deficit cannot drop below 0. You sum all the deficits up and divide by 4, and then add that result to the continuous whole house ventilation requirement. So here it's showing we've got a bathroom, 50 CFM required. The existing fan's only moving 20. It has an operable window. It's got a 10 CFM deficit. The kitchen fan, 100 CFMs required. It's only moving 70. It has an operable window. Okay, another 10 CFM deficit on here. So basically what we're going to do is add this 10 CFM deficit and this 10 CFM deficit and divide that by 4. Okay, so that's 20 divided by 4, which is going to give us 5 on there. And basically we're going to add that 5 to that 75 that we had in the base formula. Then we get into calculating our infiltration credit. Okay, few things you need here on this is your weather and story factors on this. CFM 50 of the home post-weatherization on that. This is important. You know, when you do your initial calculation there, you want to do at least your target reduction number on that home. If you think it's something that you're going to be able to get below that, you might even go, you know, below that. The experienced inspectors out there and stuff, they kind of know what they're looking at, and they'll have a good idea of how much they can reduce the airflow in that house by the work being done on that. And basically what you do for the infiltration credit is you take the CFM 50 times the weather and story factor times the standard of 0.052, okay? On there. That's a standard the engineers come up with. I don't know exactly how they did come up with that, but that's just the number that's used in this. And basically that's going to give you your infiltration credit. So, you know, we looked at this here on this, and basically the 3 steps. We got the base formula, the alternative compliance, and the infiltration credit all put in here on this. Basically, you got the base formula and the infiltration credit, 45, 20 CFM here is our deficit. We divide that by 4 for 5. We add that together on that. And then we come up with our infiltration credit on here of 52. And that's actually going to be subtracted from the fan CFM. And this first step here, it's missing the step here on this. There's supposed to be 30 added onto that there to come up to 75. So we take 75 plus the 5, that's 80. Our infiltration credit there is 52 CFM. That tells us we need a fan there continuous of 20 CFM in this house. And again, you guys don't have to worry about the long-handed math in this. We're going to go over that there in the red calc sheet. When we're dealing with multifamily homes on there, multifamilies used to be split between 62.1 for 4+ stories and 62.2 1 to 3 stories. The scope change brought all multifamily dwelling units into 62.2. Except for corridors, common spaces, and mechanical rooms. And that is still falling under 62.1. So if you're getting into big multifamily here, you're also going to need to be familiar with 62.1 on here for your corridors, common spaces, and mechanical rooms. But I think most of the multifamilies we deal with, there's duplexes, triplexes, smaller apartments like that. So the requirements integrated into the rest of the standard had been in its own special edition, Section 8. Most importance placed on the multifamily appear greater. To accommodate the term, house, or building's been replaced with dwelling unit or whole dwelling unit ventilation. So before here and everything, no multifamily building was ever allowed to get an infiltration credit. Now you can get infiltration credit for horizontally attached multifamilies. If you've got a duplex or a triplex or row houses, etc., on there, you can get an infiltration credit. You just got to reduce that credit there based on the common wall area on this. That does include garage walls as well. So here's an example. We got a triplex here on this, and it's all drawn out on here. And we look, this center unit here has a shared wall between this black unit and this green unit of 200 CFMs, or 200, I'm sorry, square feet. The green unit also has a shared wall between it and this blue unit of 200 square feet, okay? That is something that we need to subtract out of our total area of these units on that. So if we look at this here, we want to take the infiltration credit as a percentage of a single family calculation. The end units there are each going to subtract 200 on there for their shared wall, whereas that middle unit is going to subtract a total of 400 on here. So basically what they're doing is they're coming up with a area on this of 3040, or volume I should say, of 3040 minus the 200 on this for the end units and minus the 400. And that's giving you 2840 and 2640 respectively. Those are going to be divided by the 3040 to give you a percentage. And that's what's going to reduce your actual infiltration credit by that. So that's all you're going to get to take of that. The de minimis for existing buildings, if the final ventilation requirement, considering deficits and infiltration, is less than or equal to 15 CFMs, then the installation of a fan is not required. And that's been that way for quite some time on that. You know, if you do your initial calculation and it doesn't look like you're going to have a need a fan put in here, you know, your initial calculation comes up to, you know, say you only need 12 on that, okay? According to that, you don't need to put a fan in there. But if you know that you're going to be able to get that house a lot tighter than, you know, your target number that you used and stuff, you might want to consider going ahead and installing one in there. You know, you want to try to get these fans installed in here before you have all the insulation and everything blown in. I don't think anybody wants to go back and crawl through, you know, 12, 13 inches of blown in cellulose and stuff trying to install a fan. So, local exhaust. Been some significant changes in that for kitchens. It defines an enclosed kitchen. It has openings to other spaces that do not exceed 60 square feet. So basically, if there's less than 60 square feet of opening from that kitchen to other spaces, that is considered an enclosed kitchen, okay? So if it's just got a standard door in there and stuff, that doesn't have 60 square feet of opening in there. That's something you got to take into consideration. And that does not allow you to put continuous kitchen exhaust in an enclosed kitchen on that. For on-demand kitchen exhaust, you're still doing the 100 CFM range hood on that, or a 300 CFM otherwise. So, floor area definition, and this is something that's important too. When we're talking about the floor area on there, basically they are referring to ANSI standard Z765, which is based on finished area. Basically, in that standard, it more or less states, unless that area is finished similar to the common living area of the home, it is not considered in the calculation. It's considered an unfinished basement. So if they have a basement down there, yeah, it's just the block walls, they might have painted them, you know, they have an area rug throw down there on the concrete floor, and, you know, a TV and stuff there that they're using as a playroom or, you know, man cave, whatever there and stuff, that's still not to be figured in the calculation. It needs to have a similar finish to the main living area of the home. Controls on there. The standard has said there you need to have a readily accessible override. Okay, you got two options listed for this now. Either you can have a switch for the fan, okay, or a dedicated circuit breaker in the breaker box. You know, the controls still need to be labeled with text or an icon as to what they are. And in a multifamily, the control does not have to be readily accessible to the occupants. And again, beyond the CFM requirement review there and stuff, you got spot ventilation requirements as mentioned. Attached garages must be adequately sealed from the living space to prevent migration or contamination. Clothes dryers must be vented to the exterior. All duct joints outside the conditioned space must be sealed. The zone rating requirements must be met, okay? And that zone rating requirement on there is if we're installing an ASHRAE fan there, it needs to have a zone rating, which is the sound level, if you're not familiar with what a zone is. That is the sound level of that fan of 1 zone or less. If you're installing spot ventilation there and stuff, it needs to be 3 zones or less. Branch duct systems must have backdraft dampers in there. And what they're talking about there with a branch duct system is when you're using a centralized fan and you have multiple inlets coming into it there. One fan might be taking care of 2 bathrooms or something like that. So the whole home fan flow must be verified, which means we got to measure it on there. We're going to be using our exhaust fan flow meter for that when we're doing that. And we need to decide whether we're going to be using continuous or intermittent fan on this. And a lot of that's going to be on how much CFM we actually need on here. You know, if we need a lot of CFMs there and stuff, it might want to be continuous in there, depending on what our fan's rated at in order to get that. For instance, you know, if we come up with calculation that we needed, you know, our calculation come up to 70 CFMs or something like that there, and our fan was only rated at 75 on that, we'd probably want to go ahead and have that run continuous on it. But we'd have to measure it and make sure that still met the requirements. You always want to try to put in a fan that's quite a bit larger than what your requirements are. That way it gives you some wiggle room on that. Your ventilation options. You know, once you've required the, or determined the required CFM there, you know, how are you going to get there? You know, a lot of you guys, I know, a lot of agencies and everything, they're just installing exhaust fans, okay, exhaust only. Multiple spot ventilation fans in there and stuff on that, and that's fine. But one thing you got to be careful about there and stuff is that you're not depressurizing the house too much. You might cause backdrafting of your combustion appliances and pressure imbalances in your home if you're over exhausting the house on that. You know, you can get a balance system there as well where you got multiple intake and, you know, single fan, single exhaust system coming in, a supply only. You know, having fresh air run in and piped right directly into the return side of the HVAC system on that, and a direct through the wall fan supply only, or a balance system, okay? Fan driven air in and out. A couple examples of that is a heat recovery ventilator and an energy recovery ventilator on that. And I believe the next slide, we're going to have some examples of those here coming up. This one here showing multiple spot ventilation on this. We can see we've got a fan here in each one of these bathrooms, as well as a kitchen range hood in that. Okay. This here's a single system with multiple intakes. Got one fan mounted up here in the attic and branch duct systems coming off into each one of these bedrooms. The supply only, they got outdoor air intake coming directly into the return of the HVAC system, supplying fresh air that's being distributed throughout the duct system there in the house. And here's another one there, a balanced ventilation system. You can see they've got an outdoor air intake here coming in. It's coming through the roof, and an exhaust air that's vented out through the gable. And this here would be a good example of an HRV or ERV system. And here these two are. This is actually showing one where it's installed here on that. And this here is kind of showing the breakdown of it. And how these systems work here and stuff, you have air that's being drawn into it from inside the home and air that's being drawn into it from outside. And basically they're mixing in what they call a heat exchanger here. And what that's doing is tempering that air that's coming in from the outside and bringing it closer to the air temperature that's in the house. For instance, instead of bringing possibly 30-degree air and blowing it directly into the house, if it's mixing with this 70-degree heated air in here, that's going to temper that 30-degree air up to, say 55 or 60 degrees in there. And then it's going to be coming out into the living area. Other possibilities, exhaust or supply systems with passive makeup air inlets or outlets on that. Exhaust or supply systems with active fan-powered, hopefully balanced systems. Makeup air inlets or outlets, and supply or exhaust fans tied to the HVAC system. And again there, looking at the house, one system here that's right for this house might not be right for this house. Or the one that's right for this house might not be work for this one on there. Every house is going to be different. It's got different occupants in there, and their lifestyle is going to be different and everything else. So again, you just can't go in with a cookie cutter approach there. You say, well, we're going to install this one fan in every house that we do. That one fan might not work for everyone. So you might wind up installing that and then have to go back and install another one because that one wasn't sized properly. So, or caused a depressurization issue and stuff in your home. And using the fan flow meter on here. The fan flow meter is connected to manometer, measures fan flow. This is necessary for the deficit calculation and to verify the delivered CFM of newly installed fans on that. And I noticed when we come in here for class and even when we're proctoring some of our BPI exams and stuff there, a lot of people's not using these correctly still. I've got a little video here I'm going to show you guys there on how to do that. And let me end this here. Stop share screen. That's a heck of a picture of you there, Dan. Puffing on that stogie. All right, this is just a quick little video there. We're using one of our exhaust fan props here and stuff. And I'm going to demonstrate using the exhaust fan flow hood here with the DG700 and the DG1000 both. We measure the flow rate of the exhaust fans. And basically one of the first things I want to do is be able to peak and see if I can see what the rated exhaust is for this. Now on this particular one here, it's got an adjustable setting on here, and this is actually set on about 60 CFMs on this. Sometimes there you get into these older exhaust fans and stuff, you may not be able to read that information. So if you can't, I'm going to show you a way of doing this. We're going to be using the DG 700 here. And what I've got is a T set up here where I'm going to be reading the pressure and the flow here on this gauge at the same time. And in order to do that there, what I need to do is go in and change my mode to pressure flow, and then change my device on this to where it says EXH, that's exhaust fan flow meter on that. And when I do that, that's going to come up and read a CFM reading over here, and it's going to read a Pascal reading on this. So I looked at that rated CFM. If I look at this chart that I've got right here, which also comes on the instructions in here, 60 CFMs, I'm going to need my setting on E1. Okay. I'll just let me get that snapped in all the way. So if we look at this here, we've got 3 different gate settings on this. E1 is the first one, okay, and then E2 and E3. And depending on what your CFM rating is where you want that set at. So on your gauge here, E1 corresponds with A1, just like the A ring there for the blower door on this. And means I've got that all set up and I'm set there on E1. I'm going to go ahead and turn this thing on. This is a very quiet fan. Okay. And as I'm looking on this, let me turn the light on here. Looking on this, I'm getting a reading here of approximately 64, 65 and a half down, 62, 61, and about 2 pascals. Okay. Well, if I go back here and I look at my chart on the side of this, and I match up E1 to 2 pascals on this, that's telling me 62 CFM. Okay. This way here, using this little T is one way there. You don't necessarily have to know what the CFM rating is on the fan on that. The big thing there that's key is you want that Pascal reading on this when you're using this method to be between 1 and 8 Pascal. And if you look in the instruction manual there, that even tells you that. Now, demonstrate the same thing here with the DG1000 on this. I've got pressure set up over here on my A side, CFM over here. My device here says exhaust fan meter on this, and I'm already set on E1. So if I hook my gauge up like so, okay, and I put this back over here, and I'm getting a reading here. This is just right at the point there on that there where this E1 might not work. I might have to go to E2. So occasionally if this pressure drops down too low there and stuff there, you'll see there that I'll be getting a low polarity reading on that. But I'm getting almost exactly the same reading there, about 62 CFMs, as it's bouncing around a little bit. Now, the other thing I've got to do here, this is pretty easy when I'm dealing with bathroom fans, okay? This fits over this pretty nice doing that. When you're dealing with a range hood, what you need to do is come up with a template on this. We've used some foil-faced foam board here on this. And there's a couple different openings that you want in this here. One is the actual, almost the exact same size as the exhaust fan flow meter itself. And the other one's going to be a 10 by 10, and that's going to depend on the flow of the exhaust fan that you're going to measure. And the other nice thing about using this here is You might be able to see here, you zoom in real close. If you get in like in between cabinets and stuff where this might not fit in, you could actually cut this, fold this down here and stuff, put it up in there, get your reading on your exhaust fan on that, and then when you're done, fold that back up, put another piece of foil tape on that, and it's good as new on there. All right. All right, so that was a quick little video there of doing that. Right now, I'm gonna want to pull up the red cow, and hold on. Find it.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm having a little trouble here finding this.
My sound went out. I'm sitting here wondering what happened.
Yeah, I was quiet. I'm sorry. I wasn't talking. So.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm put it back on mute. So I thought you cut off for a second.
No, it wasn't like yesterday. So.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody see this on the screen there now?
Yes, sir.
Yep. It's
All
there.
right.
I can see it. Yeah, I can see it.
This is the red couch. This is the red couch sheet there that the state prefers us to use when we're doing our ASHRAE calculations there and stuff. They still have the free version out there. They actually have the pro version as well. When you go to this, it is important that you make sure and get on the right one. Again, we are using the ASHRAE 2016 version on that. They still have the older versions out, and they are coming out with the 2019 version here soon. So on this. And it might even be available in the paid version. So basically when we do this here, right now, this is totally blank. I haven't input anything into this yet. But if you have, you might need to hit the reset button there because this is going to save all the information from the last one that you entered in. So, yeah, like I say, I could do this, go ahead and do that. Nothing's going to change on this when it pops back up. There we go. All right. And in weatherization, we're always going to be using an existing building on this. Okay, we're not doing new construction. The dwelling unit, is it detached or attached? Okay, is it attached to other dwelling units on this? Basically on this here, we're going to say this is going to be a detached house. It's just setting out in the open by itself. We are going to make use of the infiltration credit. Then, this is one of the most important things on this, the closest weather station, okay? Basically, we're in the United States. We want to select our territory or state. We are in Ohio. Okay. And then select the closest weather station to you in that. We have several choices here in Ohio. Here at Athens, I'm going to say Zanesville is probably the closest weather station on that. I'm going to go ahead and pick Zanesville. Okay. The other nice thing about this here and stuff, when you do this, if you notice when I hover over this, you see a little question mark there by my cursor on that. And if you click on that, that is going to give you explanations there of what they're asking for. Okay. And basically that'll do that for anything there that you hover over. Floor area, what are they talking about? So if you do have any questions there, you can get the answers right there. So in this particular house here, let's say we have 1,500 square feet. We have 5 occupants in this house. The dwelling height. Now, if I want to know what the dwelling height is on this here and what they're determining as the dwelling height, I can click on this. Okay. And if we look at this, it says the vertical distance between the lowest and highest above grade points within the dwelling pressure boundary. All right. This height should include the above grade part of a basement if the basement is within the pressure envelope. It does not include the attic if not within the pressure envelope. So basically, if you're doing a blower door test with the basement door open, whatever part of that basement is extending above ground, you are including that in the height on that. So, yeah, say we got a 1-story house here and we have about 3 foot of the basement wall sticking out on this. Let's say my dwelling height here is about 13 feet. Okay. My measured air leakage on this, 1,500 square foot ranch on this. Again, I'm going to go with my post weatherization number on this. I'm at least going to use my target number that I think I'm going to achieve on this. So, let's try about 1,600 on this. The advanced blower door inputs, we are not going to use that. Okay. What we are going to use is local ventilation alternative compliance. So we got to check that box. And when we do that, it's automatically going to come up and include 1 bathroom. Okay. It does not include the kitchen. Obviously, they think you can have a house without a kitchen in there. But so you need to check the kitchen. And let's say in this kitchen here and stuff, it does not have an exhaust fan. So we will put 0 in here on this. It does have an operable window. So we check that. And you can see what that done to my deficit. It gave me 20 CFM credit for this openable window on there. So my deficit is at 80% here. My bath, it does have a fan in there, but this thing is only moving 20 CFM. And it does not have an openable window in there. The window's sealed shut. I can't get to it. So do that, show me I got a deficit of 30. My total deficit is 110, okay? And basically, if I look at this, this is telling me my required mechanical ventilation rate is 62 on this. And basically, I'm gonna have to put in a fan that's going to run 62 CFMs continuous on that. So if I put in a fan at 60 CFM, 62 CFMs continuously, measure it, verify it, that's great. Okay. Let's say I put in a fan there that actually when I measure it's going to be moving 125 CFMs. And basically that's telling me that I can set my fan runtime here for 30 minutes if I'm using a timer on it. Okay, it's all built into this software in this. And if I go down here, I know that I have a de minimis rate on this and it's 15 CFM. So if I type in 15 on this, that is going to tell me what number that when I hit it, I'm going to have to add ventilation. So, I typed in on this here, we was at 1600 post-weatherization. Basically, if I'd have got below 3150 on this, I was going to have to add ventilation. So, which common, we had a reading here of 62 CFMs on this. So, and again, your timer's built in on this. You do this, you get done. Everything's done in here, the final inspection, stuff like that. The initial inspector puts this off on what the target is and everything there. And, the final inspector comes in, verifies that's all done. He can sit there, the initial inspector can print this off, the final inspector can print this off and put it in the job file. I'm not really going to print that off. So, anybody got any questions there about the red calc? I think most of you inspectors and everything's using this on a regular basis right now anyhow, so should be familiar to you.
Hey, Jamie, I got a question.
Okay.
It's too long to type.
All right.
When it comes to the floored area and the height up there at the top right there in the middle that you got on the screen.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's say I have a 2-story and I put in, the square footage and everything and the height. I know how to do all that. But I've heard some confusion on the addition part. So if I have a 2-story, then I have a 1-story addition, let's just say it's 300 of the floor area, but the height obviously isn't that same height, floor dwelling. How do I do that piece?
Well, excuse me. If we go back here to the dwelling height on this, and this is telling you the vertical distance between the lowest and highest above grade points in the dwelling pressure boundary. So that addition doesn't really matter. You're going to go with the lowest point on that and the highest point. So if one part of that house is 2-story, the other part is a 1-story addition, you're still going to be using the vertical height of that 2-story. Because they figure that's within the pressure boundary, you're still going to have the airflow going through that house. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But then what do you do about the square footage?
You go ahead and include the square footage in.
Okay. Then that makes sense to me now because I've heard it 2 different ways and yours described to me is the best. I appreciate it because I've been doing it that way anyway.
Yeah. For instance, let's just say the main part of that house, 1,500 square foot. You had that 300-foot addition on there. Your floor area would then be 1,800 square foot. So.
Okay. Yeah. The way you described it, because I was trying to describe it to somebody else and I could not for the life of me make it make sense. So okay. I appreciate it.
Hey, Jimmy, I have a question. This is Kevin from Morrissey.
On your calc right there, I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but the required mechanical ventilation rate, if you go down on your screen a little bit where it shows the required mechanical ventilation rate is 62. So as an inspector, if you only put in a 60 CFM fan and when you actually do the QCI flow and it only comes out to 55, then you're not going to be allowed to use that fan.
Exactly. That's the reason I said there you should always be trying to use a fan there that the CFM is going to be considerably greater than what you think is going to be needed. So,
yep.
That's the reason I typed in, I used a fan with 125 CFM capacity on that. That gave me a lot of variance. So.
Right, and if you put in the fan capacity of, say, 55, if you can change that, see what happens.
Yeah.
Jim, this is Kevin. I had a question in regards to the
there you go.
That comes up and says stop.
Yep.
Just click on that stop there, and it said the value is outside the allowed range. It's because we require more ventilation there than what that's allowing. So I go back in, put in my 125 again, and it comes out. So yeah, you always want to make sure you're installing a large enough fan. That's the last thing you want to do is install too small of a fan, then have to go back in either change that fan out or add an additional fan in. So that's
Yeah, this is Kevin.
that's a time killer, and it just eats up production and money. And if you're dealing with contractors, the contractors aren't going to be happy with you either. So.
Hey, Jamie, this is Kevin.
I got a question here, Jamie. It's what type of maintenance schedule do they have on the HRV and on the ERV units? Is it something outside the clientele will do correctly?
It kind of depends on them. You know, a lot of those have filters in there, and those heat exchangers, those need to be cleaned off and stuff. They do have little portable HRVs there and everything. That's about twice the size of a, you know, large bathroom and that. And basically, you know, the homeowner could probably take care of that unless it's little Granny Smith there, you know, can't get up on a ladder or something on that. Changing the filter and pulling the heat exchanger out there periodically and washing it off. So, and again, yeah, go ahead.
Going to kind of be like if they change the filters to the furnace, it'll be all right.
Yeah, pretty much. So
yes, the CFM.
Got any other questions there, Jim?
Yes.
Well, we've got some here to talk about. I'm thinking it's everybody's putting exhaust in. We may want to think about bringing air in instead of exhausting it out.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, one thing that can kind of help you determine that is if your depressurizations on your worst case draft is already kind of high on your initial worst case draft, the last thing you might want to do there is think about putting exhaust in, because that's probably going to increase the depressurization, and it's probably going to cause problems with your combustion appliances. So, and you don't necessarily want to have to go in there and start changing out appliances because they won't draft because you got too much depressurization in there if you put too much exhaust in.
What's the one that Hackle sells, the little Torpedo 120?
Yeah, the SP 125s, I think, or something like that.
If people use that, they can use it for exhaust oil.
Yeah, they can just flip that around. So
I think one of the things that we found mostly with the weatherization is communication. You know, the fan gets put in, but nobody sets it, or they're waiting for the QCI to set it. And technically, they should be talking to their inspectors to make sure that, you know, the numbers change. You may not have to put one in, or if numbers don't change, you may have to put a bigger one in.
yeah. Yeah, and this is one thing nice about this dwelling unit leakage rate solver. This here's kind of giving the crew there, you know, if they come, their initial blower door was 4,000 in this house or whatever, and once they know that they started getting close to this here and everything, it's when they, you know, they should say, okay, we're going to have to add a fan. So, but if we're getting them, you know, something close to 4,000 to begin with, God, we should know we're going to get below 3,150 in that house. So, but it kind of gives a number there that they can kind of keep in mind, especially when you're getting to those ones that's just kind of iffy. You know, you might need one, you might not, depending on how tight you get it. You want to go ahead and seal the house up. Okay?
I got a good one here from Eric. He says that we've been really promoting balanced systems because they want to spend the HE money.
Yeah, yeah.
And a balanced system is going to work out a heck of a lot better than just putting a fan in.
Yeah, balanced is always better. Yeah. Of course,
put a lot of HR or HRVs in when I had my company, and if you take care of them, the people that I put them in for really notice a difference in the quality of air in the house.
Yeah. Well, it's adding that extra layer of filtration to it as well. So that's one thing.
And Eddie Cooper has a good point here. You know, if you're going to bring air in, make sure it ain't next to the driveway.
Yeah.
Good one, Eddie.
I've seen that there. I was up in Cuyahoga County there one time with a monitor, and they were having problems there and stuff, and the agency kept going back trying to figure out what was going on. They had their heating contractor out there. CO alarms kept going off in the house every morning. And basically, I got up there, and, you know, they were checking for duct leakage and everything else. I'm sitting there looking at this one duct. I'm like, okay, that's a fresh air intake. I walked outside there, saw where it was coming out, and the neighbor's car was sitting there with its tailpipe facing directly to it. So every morning when the neighbor went and fired his car up, that went right into that duct. And it doesn't matter whether the furnace was running or not, that duct works tied into the whole house. So, I mean, if the fan's running, it was going to pull it in quicker. But even if it's not there, that CO still had a direct path right into the house. And that's what the problem was. The heating contractor couldn't figure that out. The agency personnel at the time up there couldn't figure that out and everything. So they'd actually called in the state monitor and myself there on that. Somebody trying to ask a question, or is that just background noise?
I don't know. Tom asked a question. I don't know what it is. It's the reason I asked that is an agency's had to go back and turn the fan around to exhaust on monitoring visits. I don't know. It sounds like they were bringing air in and somebody told them to turn it around. Makes no sense, but
yeah. Now, the one big thing there, if you are bringing that air into the house, it does need to be filtered, okay? So it's going to have some type of filtration system on it there before it's dumped into the house. That might have been the one thing that was going on there. Maybe they didn't have a filter system.
Yeah. It'd have to be what the MERV 6 too, right?
Yes.
I noticed too, throughout the training that a lot of guys, they'll talk about where they're putting them in. They'll bring them in through the band joist into the basement and then just leave it in the basement. And that's not considered whole house.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely you want that to be in the main living area of the home. So a lot of times the basement doors are shut and everything, and that spot's just kind of isolated. It might be inside the building envelope, but, you know, it's not really main part of the house. So you want that ventilation where it's going to get into the main part of the house as well.
Has anybody got any questions out there? And again, I'll reiterate what Jamie was saying. And a lot of the times when people come down for their EA or QCI test, you'll be surprised. I'm going to say 8 out of 10 people, when they do their flow hood, they do it wrong.
Yeah.
Kind of take heed to how Jamie showed you how to do that. And that way you can make sure you get it right.
I mean, like I say, that's an easy way to do it. It's just a T. You're just using both sides of your gauge. It doesn't matter whether it's 700 or the 1000. So on there, and you're just getting verification that reading's correct.
Yeah, Tom was saying that the agency he was talking about, they was told that always had to be exhaust. But yeah, if you can bring air in anytime, you're probably going to do a much better system.
Yeah, ventilation doesn't always mean exhaust. Ventilation means air. Okay, air exchanges in there. That could be straight supply air. That could be straight exhaust, or it could be a balanced system. So I really do recommend trying to use the balanced systems as much as possible, though, and stuff, especially with this E funding that's out there and everything. You know, still having a hard time getting that spent across the state, and that's a good way to do it. So.
Well, I have a question about a basement being added to the main living quarters. Like, say that somebody used the basement as like an entertainment room or a family room instead of using the living room for their family room. Because you then add an exhaust fan to the basement area to circulate air?
Yeah, I mean, if that area is finished similar to main living spot of the house,
now
I would
come
say,
down.
I don't see why you couldn't do that.
Over to the right to
Got one here that Tom was asking, do all HWAP agencies always have to use MERV 6 filters on all new installs? And yes, they do.
Yes.
They got a little bit confused. They started putting them in on the older systems, and the older systems blurs just can't handle it.
What exactly is MERV 6?
That is just a filter efficiency rating. So
okay,
it picks up dust mites.
Yeah, the higher the MERV rating on a air filter there, the more stuff it'll filtrate out.
It was one of the things in my business. I always put a good filtering system on in the new system, and got real good kudos from the clients because it cut down the dust in the house.
Yeah,
because I believe I heard that term before in my schooling for ASHRAE. I don't know if it was MERV or another term that they use for it, but
MERV is probably the most common one there and stuff. Like in that PowerPoint I was going through, there's some variations there on different rating systems and stuff there. So, you know, the American Lung Association has its own rating system and so forth. But MERV's one of the more common rating systems there when we talk about air filters. So.
Okay.
Hey, Jamie.
Yeah.
Back to the fan flow on when you're checking an ASHRAE fan. So you're telling me that when you have a hose coming off the hood to the DG to the top tap, I always use the top left tap. Okay, are you telling me that's wrong?
No, I mean you can do that. You're just reading a Pascal reading, correct?
Right.
When you're doing that.
Correct.
I mean you can do that. You need to make sure that your gate setting's correct and you're getting the CFM off the fan, and you need to make sure that rating is reading is between 1 and 8 Pascal. If it's below 1, even though it's on the side of the flow hood there and stuff that goes below 1, that reading's not accurate.
Okay, so on, like, say, the BPI field exam, okay, if I use that method, is that wrong?
As long as you set the gate, in other words, if you got to read the fan CFM and set the gate accordingly. Yeah. Most people will read the CFM and never set the gate.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I thought maybe he was referring just to the configuration of the DG, or in other words, the hose configuration.
No.
The way Jamie did it there just makes it a little bit more accurate.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, you're verifying it both ways with the actual CFM reading and the Pascal reading. So, and you know, you're hitting a couple more buttons there on your gauge to get it set up. And if you already have a little hose set up with a T in it, it's just plugging it on the hose. So, I mean, it just something takes a couple more seconds there, and it just gives you that extra sense of verification for it.
Oh, I just want to make sure we were doing it right.
Yep. As long as you're, most people won't take the fan cover off to look for the CFM because they're afraid of breaking it.
Yeah.
And what we're telling people is, hey, if it breaks, replace it.
Hey, Jamie, this is Dan. What about, I've seen some of these guys take the fan into the return of the furnace, return side. What do you think of that?
I mean, that's an allowable thing. It's even talked about directly in the standard and stuff. So,
okay, good.
One thing they might want to consider is they should have some type of switch in there, possibly to turn the exhaust fan or the intake fan off or something when the blower on that furnace kicks on, because that could possibly damage the fan itself. So
Well, that was my thought when that come on and had to put some sort of pressure on that.
yeah, I mean, they actually do make controls you can buy there for that and stuff. So
All right, thanks.
some of them's kind of expensive, but with these agencies with this e-money right now and everything out there and stuff, they've got the money to spend on it.
And actually putting it in the return on the new system, because they're going to have that MERV 6. You're actually spreading it throughout the ductwork, and people don't even know it's there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that really is a good thing. And I mean, tying it into the air handler there and stuff, a lot of times that's what they've been doing in commercial businesses and stuff for years. And they can actually tie that in and actually use the blower on the air handler there and set it up on a timer where it kicks on every once in a while and runs to circulate the air in there. So,
yeah, especially with the newer electronic motors, they'll go down to a couple hundred CFM.
yeah.
And one thing I found out putting the HRVs in from the Sterling manufacturer is we used to use the blower on the furnace but at 300 CFM, and I evidently at 300 CFM with those HRVs, it was actually making ozone. All right, let's see. Yeah, Eric answered that one. The balance system it's the energy recovery ventilator or the heat recovery ventilator. And if you're putting them in, you really need to be reading the instructions, because you got to balance them out with the blowers on the furnaces, unless you're just using them off the furnace.